afternoon. Welcome to Nigeria Now, where we look at happenings in the country, how they affect us directly or indirectly. Quite a number of matters on our plate this afternoon that we would love to tackle, and together with you, we hope that you do well to as well drop your own comment and recommendations on some of these issues we will be discussing this afternoon. I am Sada Laishadashon. I'm doing this program together with Rachel Tanzi. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir.
All right, just like I said, we have quite a number on our plate, and we'd love to start with the concerns that are actually coming up and rising regarding the quality of education, particularly in our private schools. We're seeing that concerns are coming where we're having schools springing up left, right, and center. You just cannot help but wonder what really is the quality of education that the students are getting. Where we're seeing that, according to a report coming from the National Senior Secondary Education Commission, we have about 50,000 secondary schools in Nigeria, Rachel. And then it will tell you that basically out of these 50,000 secondary schools we have in the country, about 80% of them are being controlled by private individuals. I need to see 80% of them are private schools, leaving us with just 20% of public secondary schools. Now, quite a number of concerns rising up. I know that we just look at it passively in the morning from one of our papers, but then I would love us to dive in because we know, of course, it's the new year and schools are resuming. We had quite a number of them resuming yesterday, where we saw some of the cross section on some of our papers. But then I think it's important that, in as much as I know that this is the second term for the schools, so of course we have even people going for transfer in second term.
Sure.
We've all gone through that procedure, so we understand how it is. But then the concern right now is the fact that it's either we're having half-baked teachers or teachers that are not trained, or we are having overpopulated classrooms. And I know this was one of the concerns some parents had, the fact that we see them transferring their words from either a public school to a private school, because it's expected that, you have a one-on-one transaction, and so the numbers of students in the classroom is more, in a way that the teachers can handle, and then you tend to know the strength and the weakness of every child in that school. But I think right now reverse is the case, because it's not the way parents have actually envisioned it to be, where we're saying either we have teachers that are not qualified, or we're having schools that are not, when you look at it, you actually testify that this is not qualified to be called a school because it has not met up with the standard that it's supposed to meet up with. And then I know that in the morning we said that if we're going to look at this thing, all fingers are going to be pointing to the government. But then if we've already stated it clearly here that about 80% of these are being owned by private individuals. Now, how is the government going to come in? Because I know whether or not they must be registered with the Ministry of Education. So what this means is that it's still the responsibility of the government to go down to each of these private schools, especially the secondary schools, because I know that if we're going to look at the primary school, it's another ball game altogether different. But then let's take a look at the secondary schools, because it's expected that it's at that point in time you're supposed to be ready for what it is in the tertiary institutions and all of that. Now, the quality of education is nothing to write home about. Some of these teachers are just being employed because they have nothing else to do. Some of them are not even teaching because of the passion. It just happens to be that, you know what, there's nothing more for me to do, so why don't I teach to just while away time? But then what is the quality that students end up getting? Because they are not getting what they pay for sometimes, and sometimes even the teachers are not being encouraged enough, looking at the funding that is being released to these schools.
In Nigeria, private proprietors do have a strategy to why they are thriving and getting more. But before I get to their strategy and why we're seeing what is happening, I would like to start from this point. You see, as Nigerians, there's this there's the way that over the years it's seen that private education, be it primary, secondary, or university, is the best education, which at some point was true. Right now, we have the same kind of garbage private university and schools in general that are even worse than the government-owned school that we are running away from. Now you see, in a mixed economy, it means for every service that is out there, both the private and the government will coexist together. So that's why we will have the government hospitals, we'll have the private hospitals, we'll have government schools, we'll have private hospitals, we'll have government-owned electricity distributing company, we'll have the private distributing power company, and we can talk about that for basic amenities, facilities, and all of that. Well, apart from other things that the government have not allowed for the private sector to take over, but I think that's few when it comes to constructions of things like roads.
Yeah.
Exactly, Sele. But I don't think there's any service out there that is being rendered in this our economy, Nigeria, that we don't have private individuals, proprietors in the health sector and all of that giving these services to Nigerians. Now, when we bring it now to the education system, you see, whether you like it or not, the government controls the system, whether it is mixed or not. So even if we have a large number of private schools out there, because, well, Nigerians feel they are better, so it becomes business now for more to spring up, because now people want to take their words there because they think that it is good education. You as the government needs to regulate it. You need to watch them. You have policies, you have curriculum, you have a system, you have how they need to operate. And therefore, it is left to you. The same way we talk about some of the clinics, who gave them the license to operate, and we're having quack doctors selling people's organs and all of that. It's the same thing when it comes to school. Who approved for this school to function in the first place? Because we talked in the morning, when you see some buildings, when you see some, and you wonder,
it's like school. It was a 2-bedroom flat that was turned to
exactly,
school.
and it's not hidden, it's open. Students are having uniform, are registering, enrolling, and are going. And you wonder, okay, how is this school existing? Who permitted it? Who allowed it? It still boils down to the government, because you need license to operate whatever you want to do in a country, in a state, in a local government. You need permission to be able to. Now we can talk about the quality. Why is it that even with the fact that we have lots of private schools that was claimed once they are the best giver of education, why are we still having a poor quality of education? Because now it becomes business. Now, no, it's not that education cannot be business or it's not supposed to be, but the first aim is for it to thrive in educating. If our system was good, and if the government was in control, students could even get scholarship to go to private schools. And most importantly, it shows failure on a lot of levels. Private schools are allowed to function in anywhere part of the world, but they are not supposed to be more than the government school. Their capacity shouldn't be that in which that the majority of people going to school at whatsoever level are not in the government-owned school, but in the private schools. Now, it shows that, you know what, the government have not done their job, but now it brings exploit, because we have the mindset, Nigerians have the mindset that, you know what, private education or schools are the best. So even if you just bring out a very tiny school, people will take their children there, because one, even in primary school, if you're in a government school and teachers decide to go on strike, and labor decide to go on strike, whatever union that is under the government, be it at the state level or at the federal government, even your words are affected by that strike, even in primary or secondary. We know of tertiary is no news, but yes, there are times where state teachers, the state government and workers, civil servants at the state level are going for strike. Even schools too, because these workers, even teachers in the school, are employed by the state government. The same thing with secondary schools, because most of the time government schools have both the primary and then the secondary school. Now, when we say it becomes business, is that now we have proprietors, we have school owners that are out for the profit more than investing in the people that give the quality of the education, which are the teachers. Because we are saying, who are the people responsible to make sure that these pupils are not half-baked because they are going to primary schools, and then it is the care that these teachers are getting. And that is why you find out that you would see a private school, but what is the quality of these teachers that are teaching in that school? Why? And it still goes back to the fact that the government have failed to go into those schools and check and say, okay, you know what? This is what we are expecting from you. This is the level, the expertise, the qualification of your teachers, and we are not going to accept anything less than that. We had issues where we see these schools deviating from the Nigerian curriculum. And it brings me back to what I said from the beginning, that this is the strategy that these private schools have used in the past. And whether we like it or not, it doesn't improve the quality of our education. One of the strategies is saying, you know what, our curriculum is American based, or is British, or we're doing the PACE or the accelerated Christian education and all of that. And automatically you're tampering with the basis of this child's education. And whether we like it or not, it might sound tush, you know, Sele, but it's not the best quality. Because whether we like it or not, how many of those pupils are going to move further and school out of the continent? Because we're looking at the West African curriculum. You have the primary education building you up for our secondary education. And then we go to WAEC, we go to NECO, and we know that WAEC is West Africa. This is the curriculum because we know that out of the 100, maybe 10% will leave. So why are we jeopardizing the quality of what our education should be for the 10%? And this has been the strategy. You just have children who speak very good English, but when it comes to actually being educated, they are shallow because they do not even understand our own kind of education. We don't even know the type of English we're expected to use in our school.
You mix the
we are confused even with our spellings. Up till today, we are confused with our spellings, our grammar, the use of word, our vocabulary, and all of that. You know, there's still so much confusion that is affecting education, and there's so much branches select to why the quality of our education is what it is. And I'm taking it from the primary level because this also affects, I keep saying, it's basic education. And if our economy was working very well, there are people who would do well just from primary school, even without going to secondary school, having a first leaving school diploma and all of that. But well, the system is that you have to follow through all of these steps, which there's a need for review. But the truth is that we're 100 years behind in this kind of review. But with where we are now, what are we trying to do? So the government needs to step in every level, in my opinion. If not, it doesn't matter. We would have a lot of, you know, Ivy League, low budget kind of schools here in this country that just gives, you know what, the just a flamboyant kind of school. There are schools, primary schools, that the activities, just the activities, picnic here, retreat here, day out, day in, this event, that event is much more than the actual reading, the writing, the experiment, the this and that. And this has been a strategy that I've used that have drawn people to think that, you know what, the private schools are better. But in the end, have our children really learned what our education is, or what education is? And can they even thrive beyond all of these extracurricular activities rather than the major curriculum of schools in Nigeria? And even at the state level, there's so much that needs to be done. But I mean, our quality of education, there's no debate. It's not becoming better. This is not an argument of it is your perspective, it is your opinion. It's a fact, it's a reality, and all fingers will keep pointing to what the government needs to do to make sure that even if we decide to leave the government schools and go to the private schools, that we are getting good quality of education, not just, show off, not just paparazzi, but actual education.
I love the fact that you were able to touch almost every aspect regarding the fact that so many things are responsible for the reason why we see the drop in the standard of our education, especially looking at primary and secondary school. And then, just like you said, these are the foundations. So when we fail here, what else do we expect? No wonder we see more proprietors enabling exam malpractices.
Exactly.
Why? Because they have not done the homework, and then you just have, since this teacher is ready to, or since this person is ready to take the job for 30,000 naira, 50,000 naira, and I can just pay the person, forgetting the fact that this person has no passion, this person is not trained, this person doesn't know anything about education. Because we know for you to be a teacher, it takes the passion, and it also takes training for you to be. No wonder we see bullying and all of this even happening in school. Why? Because so many things are actually responsible for the drop. But we hope that after this research and all of these indices that are being presented, I'm hoping that it's not just one of those stories that come and go, but it will be something that there will be deliberate attempts, proactive measures to see what can be done. We've seen this for over how many years? The change, what should be done, history should be introduced or not, which language should be introduced or not in the subjects and all of that. But beyond that, we should see something that students can hold on to and say, you know what, we're actually learning in school. Now, a little deviation away from education, let's take a look at health. From yesterday, some of our papers, we've been seeing this virus, and of course, I know there will be a little bit of fear in the minds of Nigerians, because it's more like taking us back to the COVID. It's 5 years, when we had the issue of the COVID-19, and then I clearly remember when it was far back in other, continents. I raised my concern regarding the fact that what is the government of Nigeria doing to secure its borders and making sure that everything is put in place. Now we're talking about the metapneumovirus, and just from the name, that it's quite related to pneumonia, whether it's upper respiratory tract or lower. We are not medical practitioners, just like we always say, but it's quite important that we look at what are the government doing. Because looking at it, they are trying to monitor it closely, but beyond monitoring it, this is not the first time we're hearing NCDC coming out to say we're doing this. Lassa fever is here. We saw the cholera last year, Lassa fever, and the likes of so many other variant illnesses that are out there. And of course, we know that this is the time for it. The weather is quite dry, and then we know that it gives room for so many viruses to be flying left, right, and center. But I just brought it up for us to discuss because I feel it's something that will affect everybody. Because if you are not going to the market, you are going to church, you are going to the bank, you enter a public car, one way or the other, you might have a contact with this virus if you are not careful. And just like I remember saying in a time that I love the approach the government had during the Ebola, where we saw that it didn't take them so much of time and we're able to wipe it out. But then right now, presently, what is the government doing regarding this beyond monitoring it? I know that subsequently we'll talk about how you can get a contact, how to treat yourself, and then certain, even though for now there is no treatment for it, but then it's more like the common cold. Because this is one of the symptoms, more like the common cold. You feel feverish, runny nose, sore throat, and all of that. But I think it's important that what can you and I do to see that, okay, we keep ourselves, while the government is playing their part. Right now, what are the measures? I remember during the cholera, you and I were stating the fact that this is the time where you should go back to those hygienes we've been talking about, washing of your hands, having your face masks on, drinking of so much of water because it's needed to keep your immune system up and about to flush anything that is there. But we're saying that the government is trying their best to monitor. We saw that the borders right now, there's going to be check for people coming in. But I think beyond the borders, we have people that come into the country legally. What is the government doing? Let us not just concentrate on the airports, but how about other borders of the country as well?
Marcella, the thing about a viral disease is that it always feels far away. When you say it's viral for a reason, it's called a viral disease for a reason, is that it spreads fast and is easy it's very
Contact.
contagious. Yes, exactly. So that's what makes it viral. And for us in our developing nations in Africa and Nigeria precisely, is that the only reason we are able to survive certain things is that it never really comes to us or gets to us, because we are far behind when it comes to health, when it comes to medical practice and care and everything in general. And I think what helped us during the COVID was the entire world getting shut down. So it's not just about whether Nigeria wants to leave its border open, but there's nobody leaving any place to come to you in the first place.
So you are safe.
So you are safe, exactly. But if it will boil down to the measures we take, it has always been poor. I think the same thing for Ebola. We were able to, to contain it because there was some certain kind of action that was taken quickly, to stop it where it is.
Maybe because it was just here in Angola, Africa. So we felt, okay, it's closer
and
to us.
Also you can say, okay, do we have a lot of Angolans coming into the country or not? Because if we had so much activities in and out, I think the story would have been different regardless. I mean, Nigerians are everywhere, so we can't say. That is the measure I'm expecting concerning this new virus that is out there. Because you see, when it comes to Chinese nationals, we have them in and out of this country, and we can't think it's far, most especially if we know that we always have contact with these people. It's not only the airport. So when they say borders, of course, we will look at both land and sea, the water, and then also air. We're looking at our airports and then our seaports, precisely because we don't have train taking us to Asia or anywhere, or road or something like that. But yes, jokes apart, is our airports and then our seaports, precisely. And just as we started saying in the morning, our schools, our children precisely, they should be taken care of. All the measures, I mean, social distancing and all of that might be too much
for them, because
yes,
they
for
really
now,
don't understand that.
They won't. So we can talk about nose masks, we can talk about washing of hands, and maybe they don't excuse me, they don't play too much. I don't know if that's possible, because they're always all around each other. That would be like infringing in their freedom or rights and all of that. But whatever the schools can do, immediately a pupil is down with a cold or a fever, he should stay at home. Tell a parent that once your child is down with a cold or a fever, we are not saying it have gotten in yet, but you know what? Let's just watch out. These things are fast, and you never can tell. Exactly. So when you see, not because we think this child is infected with anything, but just so we don't even have any scares in school, because we know that certain rumors can spread fast in this country and in a very wrong way. Before, news will be that 5 pupils got cough and catarrh, and the news out there will be that the school shut down because children in so school in Maryland, so place in Aba are having this variant. Because there are people who exploit fake news and rumors for their own gains and benefits, so that we don't have things like that. I just hope that drastic measures are done. Let's not look at it like it's far away from us. It's close. That's the thing about viral diseases. So I just hope that the needful is done.
Yeah, and just like, I love the fact that you stated, because we know that younger children, older people are the ones that their immune are not very strong. And just like you stated, maybe the reason why we're able to survive all of these things are because of how back we are, and then people not coming in as they should be, because when it comes to the health sector, we're really not doing much when it comes to that. And so I think this is a point where parents have to be very, very, because especially for children between maybe 4 or 5 years, and then if you have elderly people around 65 years and above, those are people, just like I rightly stated, the weather, if you could go out wherever you are in Nigeria presently, you know that the weather is stuffy, it's dusty, and then you just cannot help. So even without this, I think this should be a time where we all have to develop the habit of having a face mask, because you never can tell who is sitting next to you, and then you can't just ignore somebody coughing. Possibly the person is spreading it and all of that. And then I think I've seen that lately people have been coming down with cold quite a lot.
Yes.
So we really have to do something to make sure that we keep our immune up and about. Just like I say, taking off water, try and minimize contact with people, especially you don't understand. I think that we had during the Ebola, I remember we had this I don't know if every school organization had it, but before you go into the office or the school, there's certain equipment that were used to dictate whether or not your temperature was high or down,
yes,
and
we
all
had
of that. And I don't know if it was actually working, but then to some extent, it actually helped us back then when we were in school. So if your temperature is kind of, maybe it's a running
Yes,
temperature,
yeah.
you're not allowed. So I
True.
think that maybe the government can also make this available even to public, schools and all of that, so that we can actually help people, whether or not we are down. I think we should be open about knowing what is happening. So it might not even be the metapneumovirus, but it might be any other virus.
be
Just like
any,
we say, it's a
yes.
viral, one of those families. So I'm hoping, I'm trusting that it doesn't get to us. And that
hope
we'll
so.
do all that
Yes.
is needed to do. Well, thank you so much, Rachel, for doing
You're
this
welcome,
with
Sarah.
me. As well, thank you to our viewers, and thank you to the entire production team for making this program a success. We look forward again to doing this together tomorrow. Please do have a lovely day ahead.